Well, hello there, sugar. I'm Pearl. Come on in. The kettle's already on. My mama raised 6 of us in a little house outside Boone, North Carolina, through years when there was more month than money. 6 children, 1 wood stove, and a garden that had better behave itself. She never once called us poor, and we never once went hungry. Not one single day. And the way she did that was 100 little tricks in the kitchen. Things her own mama taught her, things nobody ever wrote down, because women like her were too busy living them to write them. Well, today I'm going to write them down for you, 25 of them. Some will save you real money. A few will surprise you, and 1 or 2, I promise, will make you call somebody older than you just to ask if they remember it too. Get you a cup of coffee, honey, and stay with me clear to the end, because the last few are the ones folks always say they wish they'd known 30 years ago. Number 1, the grease jar. Mama kept a jar by the stove, and every drop of bacon grease went into it. That jar was our butter, our oil, and our flavor, all in one. Eggs fried in it, cornbread got a spoonful in the pan, beans got a spoonful in the pot. Green beans cooked with a spoonful of that grease will make a grown man forget his manners, honey. A family that throws out bacon grease is buying flavor twice, Mama said. Keep it by the stove. Strain it through a bit of cloth now and then so the crumbs don't turn it, and it keeps for weeks and weeks. I priced a bottle of cooking oil at the goods store last week, and I had to set it back down and collect myself. That 1 jar will save you the price of a bottle every single month, and your cooking will taste better for it. That's not a trick. That's a raise you give yourself. Number 2. Stale bread was never stale in Mama's house, because Mama didn't believe in it. You run the loaf under the tap, just a second, just enough to wet the crust all over, and straight into a hot oven for 5 minutes. It comes out crackling and warm like it was baked that morning. The steam wakes the bread right back up, you see. The water turns to steam inside the crust and softens the crumb, and the oven crisps the outside. First time I showed my neighbor, she stood in my kitchen and accused me of hiding a fresh loaf somewhere. We never once threw a loaf away in that house, and when a loaf got too far, gone even for that trick, well, nothing was over yet. That's what number 3 is for. Number 3, the crumb crock. Every heel of bread, every dry biscuit, every corner of cornbread got grated up and toasted in the skillet with a little of that bacon grease from the jar. Bread crumbs, honey. Mama kept a crock of them like other folks keep sugar. She used them to stretch a meatloaf, to top a casserole so it looked fancy for church supper, to thicken a soup that came out thin. A handful in the bottom of the pie plate kept a custard pie from going soggy. Store-bought crumbs cost near $4 a can now, and they taste like the can. Ours tasted like Sunday dinner, because they were made of Sunday dinner. Nothing in that kitchen. Got to retire early, sugar. Everything worked 2 jobs, same as everybody in the house. Number 4. We hardly ever had buttermilk, but every biscuit recipe on God's green earth wants buttermilk. So Mama made her own, and it takes 5 minutes. 1 tablespoon of vinegar in a cup of sweet milk. Give it a little stir, and let it sit till it clabbers up thick. That's it. That's the whole secret. Works in biscuits, pancakes, cornbread, cake, anything the recipe asks. The acid is what the recipe really wants, you see. It wakes up the baking soda and makes everything rise tender. To this day I could not tell you the difference in the finished biscuit, and I have been making biscuits for 60 years, so you can trust I've had time to check. Don't you ever make a special trip to the store for buttermilk again, honey. That's gas money and shoe leather both. Number 5. Potato water. When you boil potatoes, that cloudy water left in the pot is half the goodness, and most folks pour it straight down the drain like it did something wrong. Mama would have wept. Used warm, it makes bread dough rise faster and bake up soft as a feather pillow, and the loaf stays soft for days longer. The starch in the water feeds the yeast and holds the moisture. That's the science of it, though Mama just called it common sense. Cold, she'd stir it into gravy to stretch it, and nobody ever caught her at it. Bread made with potato water keeps near a week without a single thing added to it. That's why the fike and old-time bread never needed preservatives. Sugar. The preservative was knowing what you were doing. Number 6. The meat stretcher. A pound of ground meat fed all 8 of us, and I'll tell you exactly how. A half cup of oats, soaked soft in milk, worked into the meat with an egg. Meatloaf, meatballs, burger patties, it all went half again as far. Now here's the part nobody believes till they try it. It's juicier that way. The oats drink up the drippings that would have run out into the pan and kept them right there in the meat. Folks today pay extra for dry meat and call it fancy, and I just have to smile. My daddy never once knew there was a speck of oatmeal in his supper, and he'd have told you, Mama's meatloaf was the best in 3 counties, and he'd have been right. That's a nickel's worth of oats doing a dollar's worth of work. Number 7. 1 chicken, 3 suppers. Sunday, that bird was roasted proper, and it was a feast. Monday, the leftover meat went into a pot pie or dumplings, and that was a feast too. And the bones, honey, the bones were just getting started. Into the pot they went with every vegetable scrap Mama had saved all week in a bowl in the icebox. Onion skins, carrot tops, celery leaves, the parsley stems, simmered all afternoon while she did the wash, and that golden broth was Wednesday's soup, and it could raise the dead. 1 bird, 3 suppers, and not a scrap wasted. Now they sell that same broth in little paper boxes at the store. They call it bone and broth, and they charge $5 for it like they invented it. Mama would have laughed till she cried. Sugar. She made it with the trash. Number 8. Nothing left that kitchen without a second job, and I mean nothing, not even eggshells. Crushed up fine, they went into the garden around the tomatoes, because tomatoes are hungry for the lime in them, and it keeps the blossom rot away. And here's the one that surprises everybody. A clean bit of shell dropped right in the coffee pot takes the bitterness out of cheap coffee. That's an old church kitchen trick, from the days of boiling coffee in a big enamel pot for 100 people. The shell settles the grounds and mellows the whole brew. My mama's coffee was the cheapest brand the store carried, and every preacher we ever had swore it was the best you can, and the county. Try it once, honey, and you'll never buy the dear kind again. Number 9. The tender crust secret. 1 teaspoon of vinegar in your pie dough water. You won't taste it. I give you my word on it. But the crust comes out tender and flaky every single time. Even if you handle the dough too much. Even on a humid mountain day when the flour's feeling contrary. The vinegar keeps the filling flour from toughening up. That's the plain truth of it. Mama made a pie every Saturday of her married life, rain or shine, and her crust never once turned out tough. Ladies at church used to sidle up to her at socials, trying to worm the secret out of her, and she'd just smile sweet as you please. She told, in me on my wedding day, like she was handing me the deed to something. And I suppose she was, honey. I suppose she was. Number 10. Start your bacon in a cold pan. I know, everybody wants to heat the skillet first. Their mama told them to. Their TV told them to. And that's how you get bacon that's burnt on the ends, and raw in the middle, and grease spattered from the stove to the ceiling. Lay the bacon in a cold pan, then bring the heat up slow and gentle. The fat renders out even and easy. The bacon lays flat instead of curling up like it's scared, and every strip cooks the same. More clean grease for the jar, prettier bacon for the plate, and not a scrap lost to burning. It takes 2 minutes longer, sugar, and it saves you more than that in scrubbing the stove. Slow is fast in a kitchen, Mama used to say. Slow is fast. Number 11. Beans were supper twice a week at our house, and Mama had 2 rules about them, and both of them were law. First rule: soak them overnight with a little pinch of baking soda in the water, and they'll cook near half an hour faster and sit a whole lot easier on your stomach, if you take my meaning. Second rule: never ever salt the beans till they've gone soft. Salt too early, and the skins toughen up and stay tough all day, and no amount of simmering will forgive you. 2 pennies worth of knowledge that saves a stove full of firewood, Mama called it. She could feed 8 people on a pound of pintos and a piece of fatback, and we went to bed full, honey. Full and happy. Number 12. The rescue potato. Now listen close, because this one has saved more suppers than the fire department. If you oversalt the soup, or the beans, or the stew, there is no need for tears and no need to start over. You just drop a whole peeled potato in the pot and let it simmer along for 20 minutes. That potato drinks up the extra salt like it was born for the job. Fish it out before you serve, and here's the bonus, sugar. That potato is the cook's treat, salted and buttery and perfect, and you get to eat it standing at the stove where nobody can see you. I have rescued many a pot that way, and not one soul at my table ever knew there'd been a crisis. What happens at the stove stays at the stove. Number 13. Before there was plastic wrap, there was the damp cloth. And I'll tell you a secret. The cloth is better. Greens, lettuce, carrots, celery, they all got wrapped up in a wrung-out tea towel and set in the icebox. They keep crisp near twice as long as they do in the store's plastic bags. And here's why. The cloth breathes, and the plastic sweats. All that wet inside a plastic bag is what turns your lettuce to slime by Thursday. The damp towel keeps things cool and moist without drowning them. I still do it to this day, every week, and my lettuce outlives my neighbor's every single time, and she buys the fancy kind, honey. Don't tell her I said that. She knows, bless her heart, but don't tell her. Number 14. 1 apple in the potato basket. Just one, sitting right in amongst them like it lives there. The apple gives off a little breath. Ethylene, they call it now. And it keeps the potatoes from sprouting eyes. Folks think it'd be the other way around, that the apple would spoil the lot. But no, ma'am. That's just how the good Lord made apples, honey. In our cellar, a 50-pound sack of winter potatoes stayed firm and clear till spring, with 3 apples sitting amongst them, and spring in the mountains takes its sweet time coming. 50 pounds of potatoes was money in the bank in those days. 1 apple standing guard over the family's bank. Sugar. Think about that next time somebody tells you the old folks didn't know anything. Number 15. Limp celery, limp carrots, droopy parsley, limp anything. You stand it up in a glass of cold water like a bunch of flowers, and you leave it be for an hour or overnight. It drinks itself crisp again, right back to snapping. Mama called it putting the vegetables to bed, and us kids thought that was the funniest thing in the world. A bedtime for celery. But here's the arithmetic that isn't funny. Half of what folks throw out as spoiled was never spoiled at all, honey. It was just thirsty. Every stalk you rescue is a stalk you don't buy twice. Give it a drink before you give it the trash can. That was the rule. Works. On a wilted bouquet from your husband, too. But that's a different story. Number 16. When the brown sugar turned hard as a brick, and it always did in a mountain winter, Mama laid a slice of soft bread right on top of it in the jar overnight. By morning, the sugar was soft as sand, and the bread was hard as the floor. The sugar just borrows the moisture back, you see. It works with a slice of apple, too, and that leaves the sugar smelling faintly of apple pie, which never hurt anybody. Nobody in the mountains ever chiseled at their sugar with a butter knife, honey. And nobody ever bought one of those little clay bears they sell now for the same job. The bread was free, and it worked. By breakfast, some problems just want a slice of bread sugar, more of them than you'd think. Number 17. The skillet rules. A cast iron skillet was a wedding gift meant to outlive the marriage, and I mean that literally, honey. Mama's skillet came from her mama, and it sits on my stove right this minute, black as coal and slick as glass, and it is older than I am by a good stretch. Here's how you keep one that way. Wipe it out while it's still warm. Rub in 1 drop of grease from the jar. Hang it up dry. That's all. No soap unless something truly terrible happened in there. And never, ever let it sit wet, because rust is the only thing that can kill it. That skillet fries an egg prettier than any pan they make today. And when I'm gone, it goes to my granddaughter, and I've already told her. The skillet and the rules, they come together as a set. Number 18. The bubble clock. My mama never owned a kitchen timer in her whole life, and she never burned a thing that I can recall. The kitchen tells you everything, if you'll hush and pay attention. Flapjacks get flipped when the bubbles around the edge stay open instead of closing back up. Biscuits are done when you smell them. That's the crust telling you plain as words. A cake is ready when it pulls away from the side of the pan and answers back quiet when you press it light with a finger. Bread sounds hollow when you thump the bottom, like knocking on a good door. The kitchen talks to you, sugar. It always has. You just have to quit the radio and the telephone long enough to listen to it. That's a skill nobody can sell you, and nobody can take from you either. Number 19. Yesterday's supper wore a disguise at our house. Leftover mashed potatoes got a bit of flour and an egg worked in, shaped into little cakes, and fried gold and crispy in the grease jar's finest. Potato cakes, honey, and my brothers fought over them harder than they fought over the original potatoes. Leftover rice turned into rice pudding with milk and a little sugar and whatever the sugar bowl smelled like. Leftover biscuits got split and toasted and laid under gravy. Sunday's roast became Monday's hash, chopped fine with onions and browned crisp. Mama said only rich folks and foolish folks eat the same dish twice the same way, and we were neither one, sugar. Leftovers weren't the sad end of a meal in that house. They were the opening act of the next one. Number 20. Here's one for Sunday, and it stays between us. When the roast was small, and the gravy came out pale and thin-looking, a spoonful of the morning's leftover coffee went into the pan. Not enough to taste, mind you. Just enough to turn that gravy a deep, rich brown. with a little edge of bitterness that reads like the roast cooked all day long. It's rye gravy's first cousin, if you know your gravies. The eye eats first, Mama used to say, and a brown gravy tastes richer than a pale one before the spoon ever reaches a single mouth. Our preacher ate at our table one Sunday a month for 20 years, honey, and he never once knew he was eating Tuesday's coffee, and he always asked for seconds. May the Lord forgive us both. Number 21. The peels weren't trash either, sugar. Nothing was. You know that by now. Orange and lemon peels got dried on the windowsill in a little dish and kept in a jar on the pantry shelf. A strip buried in the sugar bowl scented the whole bowl for cakes and cookies, faint and lovely. A strip simmered in a pan of water on the back of the stove made the whole house smell like Christmas morning in the middle of February. And in a long mountain winter, honey, that was medicine. A bit ground up fine went into the icebox to keep it smelling sweet. An orange was a treasure in those days. We got one each in our sen stockings, and that was the wonder of the season. So no, we did not throw half of it away. They sell dried peel now in little jars. They call it zest, and they charge for it like it's medicine. It's garbage, honey, the good kind. Number 22. The cake keeper. Half a cake goes dry and sad in a day, unless you know this. Press a heel of bread up against the cut side and pin it there with a toothpick or two. The bread goes stale and the cake stays soft. The moisture moves to the drier thing, you see, and the bread volunteers. The bread akale, misa, and the bread volunteers. The bread is the guard, Mama said, and it gives itself up for the cake. Us kids thought that was terribly noble of the bread. The same trick keeps cookies soft in the tin. One slice of bread laid in the bottom, changed out when it goes hard. And a birthday cake made Friday stays Sunday soft for the party, which meant Mama could bake ahead when the week allowed it. And in a house with 6 children, honey, baking ahead was the difference between a party and a predicament. Number 23. The cloth under the lid. When the rice or the beans were near done, Mama laid a clean folded tea towel over the pot before she set the lid back on. That cloth catches the steam water that would otherwise gather on the lid and drip right back down, making your rice gummy and your beans watery. With the cloth up there drinking, the rice comes out every grain separate and proud, and the beans finish creamy instead of swimming. One tea towel, honey. That is the entire secret they build into those fancy rice machines that cost more than Mama's first stove. When I finally saw one of those machines at my granddaughter's house, I lifted the lid, looked inside, and told her, "Sweetheart, I've been that machine for 50 years. She laughed, but she wasn't wrong to buy it. She just didn't know she already owned a tea towel. Number 24. Crack every egg into a saucer first, one at a time, never straight into the bowl with the others. Because one bad egg in the batter, and the whole cake is gone, honey. Flour, sugar, butter, and all. And in Mama's day, that was real money lying broken in a bowl. That was the butter and sugar for the week. Eggs came from our own hens, and a hen doesn't stamp a date on anything she does. So, saucer first, look, sniff, then in it goes. It costs you 3 seconds an egg. I still do it, every single time, with store eggs stamped and dated and inspected, because my hands learned it before my head did. And tool habits like that one are just insurance the poor could afford. Sugar. 3 seconds against a whole cake. That arithmetic hasn't changed. Number 25. And honey, this is the one I hope you carry out of here, because all the others live inside this one. My mama planned the week's suppers before she spent one dime, sitting at the table Sunday evening with a stub of pencil, and she shopped her own pantry first, every time. Sunday's bird chose Monday's pie, and Wednesday's soup. The garden said what August looked like, and the canning shelf said what January looked like. Nothing was bought that didn't have two jobs waiting for it, and nothing was cooked that didn't leave something useful behind for tomorrow. That's the whole trick. All 25 of these in one sentence. The kitchen isn't a place where you spend money, sugar. It's a place where you keep it. My mama kept a family of 8 fed, clothed and churched on a garden, a grease jar, and a pencil stub. Don't you let anybody tell you that isn't genius, honey. I've met educated folks who couldn't do it with a calculator. Well, look at that. The kettle's gone stone cold, and I have talked your ear clean off, just like Mama always said I would. If these old tricks took you back to somebody's kitchen, your mama's, your grandmama's, a neighbor lady's who fed you after school, then do an old woman a kindness and tell me about her down in the comments. What was her trick? The one nobody wrote down? I read every single comment with my evening coffee, honey, and some nights it's the best part of my day. And if you want more of the old ways before they're gone for good, you go on and press that subscribe button. It don't cost a thing, and it keeps an old woman company up here on the mountain. Next time, I'll show you what Mama could do with a bag of flour and a bad week. And sugar, you will not believe the biscuit part. Bless your heart for sitting with me. Bye now.